Good afternoon. I'm a few minutes late, but like I said, about noon. We are meeting here every day for the next 30 days for a quick craft with Royce. I wanted to do this with coming into the new year to jumpstart our creativity and enter 2026. Um, just inspired. And so today I am going to be creating using this is a palette, a paint palette, a wood one, and you can buy these pretty inexpensively on Amazon. I'll put a link below later. I'm also going to be using the Roycycled Paintable Bloom Decoupage Paper. Um, if you're new to recycled papers or 21 inch by 29 inch, and it is a tissue paper, and it's an 18-pound tissue paper. So it's heavier than the gift wrap tissue paper that you buy, but it's a lot lighter than, say, wrapping paper. So you still have the benefit of the tissue paper, but it's a little heavier, so it's more forgiving than, say, napkins or the tissue paper that you buy in gift wrap would be. And I'm also going to be using a piece from music. I believe this is Musical Notes. That's bad. I should know the name of my own papers, right? From my Musical Notes decoupage paper. And this is just a masterboard of music notes, different sizes, different orientations. You could absolutely use this as an entire sheet. Or you can cut it up and use it into pieces the way we're going to be using it today. And I do want to also say that the recycled paintable blooms is a repeat. So if you have a piece that's larger than a piece of paper, then you can line the paper up and still be able to use it on a larger surface. Did I introduce myself now? I'm fired. My name is Royce. I'm Hunt Bell, and I'm the owner of Roycycled Treasures, and we're the ones who create and produce Roycycled Decoupage Papers. So, in addition to the decoupage paper, I also have some white paint. I already painted my surface for the sake of time today because we have a multiple step project today. Um, and I don't know why I chose to work on white. The camera struggles to focus on the surface when it's white. I'll sacrifice one of my mats here. There we go. That way the camera won't have such a hard time. Um, and I have, I'm going to be sanding this little hole right here. So I have like a little emery board that I can use, or a micro sander, which I really like this tool. I think I'll be opening and using this today. I have my misting spray bottle that I'll be using today. And I'm going to be using, oh, it'll be fine. I'm going to be using a matte medium to decoupage today. But we're going to be talking about transparency today. And if you want to get the most transparent outcome, you'll want to use a gloss medium. Matte mediums have little particulates in it that disrupt the surface, which makes it look matte. When we look at it, the light doesn't bounce off as readily as it does with gloss medium. And that's what makes it look matte once it's dry. But it's also what kind of obscures your vision, if you will, when you're using it to either do reverse decoupage on glass or when you're wanting to take full advantage of a transparency of your decoupage product. Maybe I'll use something different that has a gloss on it. I think I'll use a gloss one. And again, you guys can use whatever you have on your craft table. If you have acrylic products, you can use a medium to both adhere and seal your paper. If you're someone who uses a chalk base or clay based paint, you probably have a top coat or water based clear coat on your or varnish on your table. And you can use those to both adhere and to seal your decoupage paper. Or if you have Mod Podge or some other kind of craft product, you can use those as well. So to start this, I'm going to my music notes first, because I'm going to layer the two papers so that we can take full advantage of the transparency of the paper and have the music notes to show through. One thing to note is that the transparency is the highest or the best for lighter decoupage papers. So white, obviously, you're going to get the most transparent output. The darker the color, the less you can take advantage, kind of. of the transparent nature of the paper. So I'm just gonna go around the edge of this. And what I'm doing is I'm creasing or marking my paper so that I know where to trim for two reasons. One reason is I really want to waste as little as possible of my paper, right? So I want to trim pretty close because even these little pieces I can use for smaller projects. And the second reason is because I don't want to leave a lot of paper laying over the edges when I decoupage, because when they dry, they can actually pull your paper off of the surface. Now, that's not a complete deal breaker. You can just go back under the edge and add some more decoupage medium, but like why, right? So I don't know if you, yeah, you guys can see that. You see that circle there where I use my finger to press to create that. So now I can trim my paper. I'm not going to cut perfectly on that line. I do like to give myself some room for error just in case like the paper shifted when I was measuring it or something. But I don't want to leave a lot, like an eighth of an inch maybe. I'm having to shift my paper to make sure that I'm keeping track of the actual edge. So now I can decoupage this. Um, I'm just using a regular craft brush. I'll put a link to these brushes in the comments once I upload like the video to this live, because these brushes, you can buy them in a pack fairly inexpensively. They're really soft, the bristles are, and these are rugged brushes, you guys. I am not nice to my paint brushes, and sometimes they may soak in a jar for a week, sometimes more. It just depends on my schedule. But these brushes have withstood my abuse so well over the years. So when I'm decoupaging, I like to start off with a starter row, and that's just like a section that I'm going to lay down my medium, making sure that I start with a straight line. If I go with a wobbly line, I'm going to have a hard time getting me places that don't have it under the paper. And what happens is once I lay this row down, now I don't have to worry about my paper moving, or anything like that. I did get a little bitty wrinkle right there, but because it's an 18-pound tissue, I can just lift this up a little bit and reposition it. If this were a napkin, there's just no way that I would be able to do that, right? And now that I have my starter row and I'm comfortable that my paper is going to lay the way I want, I can go ahead and decoupage the rest. If you look at older videos, you'll see me decoupaging like one row at a time, but that's before I started using the misting method. Now that my paper is expanded, I don't have to worry as much about wrinkles. I do still want to be thoughtful about how I lay my paper down because I don't want to get air trapped underneath there though. And with the misting method, you do want to make sure that you're using enough, um, a little bit more medium than maybe you normally would. Just be careful not to pull it under your paper because that can actually cause ripples in your finish. I'm going to go ahead and poke a hole in that, and that'll help me in a few minutes. Now, when you're working with irregular shapes like this and you have something like this, I like to go in and just cut it while it's dry. Cutting wet paper is kind of weird. That's going to release tension here, and it's going to make it a lot easier for me to sand this off once it dries. Now, I could wait for this to dry, but I'm going to go ahead and decoupage right over the top of this since we're layering. I am going to use a gloss formula, though, to decoupage over the top of this because I want to take full advantage of the transparent nature of my paper. Let me rinse my brush to get that matte medium off. Now you can use gloss on both layers. I just kind of forgot, honestly, because I'm so used to just doing this. I wasn't thinking about it. Now, this is the Roycycled Paintable Blooms Decoupage Paper. And you guys know that it's an 18-pound tissue paper, which makes it a lot easier to use than the lighter tissue papers or napkin. I'm going to lay this down. I already know that I want these two blooms and this butterfly. I probably should have measured this out before I started decoupaging. But we are going to make it work, you guys. I don't think it'll adhere that quickly. So I'm going to do this one a lot thicker. And I could also just trim it right over the top of my project, right? And again, I'm being cheap. I really don't want to waste a lot of paper. Because I know I can use these other pieces for more projects, right? And I'm really only using a little bit of this paper. So there's no reason to waste any of it. Oh, Lord, it's sticking. Probably not the best idea to put pressure on there, huh? And did I trim it right? Because I did it quickly. Oh, I did. Okay, so I'm going to miss this paper for two reasons. One is because I want to bend my paper fibers, but I also want to take advantage of the transparency of this paper. So I'm going to make sure that it's that I misted it, but I'm also gonna be conscientious about being that my moisture is evenly distributed. Because if I have an area that's really wet and another area that's drier, I'll get differences in transparency, which isn't a deal breaker, but it's just something to think about. So I'm going to go ahead and lay down my glossier decoupage medium or my gloss medium to decoupage this sheet so that I can really take advantage of the transparent nature of this paper. And you guys can see here where I lifted that a little bit and I was playing around, but I'm just going to decoupage that little piece on there and no one will ever know. I'm looking from the side. I want to make sure I haven't left any areas that don't have medium or that maybe that have less medium um, because that's where you can get bubbles is when you have areas where there's nothing for the paper to adhere to. And so I'm going to lay this right over the top. And this is what I mean by having a starter row. I'm lucky my paper laid down correctly, but see what I'm saying? It's coming off the edge. So had I done a starter row, I wouldn't have to worry about that, right? It's laying perfectly. But luckily, the tissue is hardy enough to deal with being repositioned. And I still didn't come up far enough, but I'm going to leave it. So I'm just going over the entire surface now. And you guys see how you can see the music sheets right through that top paper. So layering your decoupage paper really allows you some additional choices. We have several paintable designs that have the white backgrounds that you can use like this. Or even if it's just a lighter design, like the burlap roses design is really light in nature. And I've done videos in the past where I've shown you guys how I've layered it over the top of a paper with typography in order to have that show through, that script or typography to show through. And so let's dry this and trim it. And then I want to put on, I don't want that paper to lift up because now I'm dealing with two layers of paper, right? On here. Now, I could have trimmed it first before I decoupaged the second layer, but honestly, we only have like 20 to 25 minutes together this morning, so this was quicker. So we're going to dry this enough for me to be able to trim it safely. You can trim when your paper is wet. You really do just increase the odds of tearing your paper though when you do that. So if it having like a really clean trim is something that's important to you, then the best thing to do is to let your paper dry completely before you trim. Now, if you guys are looking for Roycycled Decoupage Paper, you can find them at roycycled.com. And you can also find a map of retailers at roycycled.com. So you may have a retailer in your community, or there may be someone that you're already ordering supplies from, paint, transfers, stencils. Um, you didn't know that they carried Roycycled Decoupage Papers. So you can check with them to see if they have what you need. Now I have two layers of paper, so it's taking a little bit longer to dry, but we're going to be patient, right? Now, there's one thing I want to talk about since we're talking about matte versus gloss medium when you're decoupaging. There's a lot of talk about how strong the tissue paper is or how durable the tissue paper is. And it really depends on what top coat you use. You imagine how thin a coat is of paint that you paint on a surface. So the paper is actually probably thicker than that. So which decoupage or top coat you use on your decoupage paper really does determine how durable your paper is going to be. And you want to make sure and seal your paper in a way that is consistent with the way or appropriate, the most appropriate for the way it's going to be used. So if I am going to just use it for home decor, I can just use my acrylic medium, my Mod Podge, or whatever I'm going to use, and that's going to be fine. If I decoupage a piece of furniture, I'm probably going to want to use a water-based varnish top coat. It's all the same, you guys. We just call it different names. Maybe I'm going to use it as a coaster, and it may become in contact into like with with a hot cup. Then I can use a sealer that's made for engines. You can find it like in the car department at at like your local big box store, and they have it in clear, and you can use that, right? Because it's formulated to deal with heat. So you really want to use the sealer that's appropriate for how you're going to use your decoupage paper. And if you're going to use it outdoors, then you want to use a top coat that's going to be appropriate for outdoor use. And you probably want to have some UV protection as well. So I'm going to use my micro detail sanding tool. And I'll put a link to this in the video once I post it, you guys. It comes with different sheets, you see, different, como se dice, Like this is an 80 grit, right? That's pretty. Oh, it's interesting. They have their own system. So for them, the 80 grit is the roughest and 40 is the smoothest. So I'm going to want something in between. And I think, interesting. And I think this is a 180, which might be perfect for what I want to do. So I don't think it's a special. I think that these strips are cut, and so we can't see the whole number. So I'm going to use 180. Usually I like to use like a 220 grit, but I'm not seeing that as an option. So I'm going to go around my edges and I'm pulling straight down. And I'm really focusing on the edge of that when I'm trimming it. Now, I see people go side to side, and I'm not guaranteeing that it's going to ruin it if you do that. But I do think that if you have an edge that's not adhered well and you go side to side, you risk pulling it up and then tearing it. So if it's really important for you to get a clean trim, then I just like to go straight down all the way around. If you want to do it faster, you can go kind of like in a diagonal, and that way you're able to cover, a larger surface area, but my motion is still the same. Oh, you guys can't see what I'm doing, can you? I'm sorry. So you see I'm going diagonally. My motion's still the same, but I'm able to work on a larger area at the same time. And you see how this is able to get into this kind of a tighter space fairly easy. And if you're like me and your hands aren't the best, this is really nice because it's soft. And it's just easier to grip and apply pressure at the same time because you have something to hold on to versus like a piece of sandpaper. As we get older, we have to kind of modify the way that we do things, right? And there are a lot of things that we can do that will allow us to be able to continue to do the things we love, even though our bodies are changing. So this is a really tight area. So I stole one of my husband's emery boards. Don't tell him, you guys. And you can even go to Dollar Tree, and you know how they have the really big emery boards? Those are nice to have on your workbooks for getting into tight spots when you're needing to trim your paper. And I've seen people like light their paper on fire, but I'm just leery to do that because we use so many different craft supplies and we don't think about them as being chemicals, but they really are. If you think about your craft space, you probably have glue, resin, spray paint, in a compressed bottle. There's a lot of flammable stuff in your workspace. And so I just assume not introduce any open flames into my studio. That's just me. I'm a chicken, but okay. So let me clean up just a bit. And we are nearly out of time. Once you get this done, you have a couple of options. You can either paint this, right? We could go in, and we know with the recycled paintable decoupage paper that you don't have to like know how to paint. I'm saying that with air quotes because I think everyone has the capacity to paint. It's just a matter of learning the thing. You can just use any transparent color over your flowers and it completely works. For the sake of today's demonstration though, I am going to just go over this with, I have some ochre yellow here and it is transparent. You guys can almost see in the bottle, you can see through it. And out of brushes. I'm out of clean brushes, y'all. Oh, Lord. Y'all know what that means. I have to clean brushes today. I found one. It's fine. So I'm just going to go over this with a quick coat of this ochre yellow over the entire thing. Oh, this is not a good brush. It's not soft. It's kind of crunchy. It's okay. It's okay. Um, just because I want some color. You could leave it black and white. I think it's beautiful. Um, Honestly, my preference is to paint it, and I'm probably going to paint this later, which is why I'm using this color. Underpainting before you paint, you guys, adds like a really beautiful, I don't know how to explain it. It's almost a glow that it will add to your projects. And David and I will be live tomorrow night here on YouTube and also on Facebook at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you want to join us there, please come and join us. And I think I'm going to explore underpainting because we haven't really talked about that. I have streaks and I don't like those. So I'm going to mist this and find a better brush. Make sure I get a brush that doesn't already have, and I only misted it so that my paint wouldn't dry while I'm looking for a brush, you guys. I don't want all those streaky streaks on my project. I want it to be fairly smooth. And actually, what would be even more fun? Oh my gosh. You guys know I want to keep going. So this live per day was David's idea. And the thought was that I would just show up and do a really simple project. You guys know I struggle with that, right? But it's okay. We'll dive deeper into underpainting during our live tomorrow night. So make sure that you join us and we'll talk about that a little bit more. I'm going to dry this and I do want to go around the edges and just add some. You guys know I'm a sucker for a good halo. So I'm going to go around the edges with some antiquing just to like, I don't know, bring some more dimension to this piece. But I'm going to dry this really quickly. And that is really, do I want to use, I think that's a little too much color. I'm going to wipe some of that back. Looking at it on the camera, I can see it looks really bright, which is not my intention. It'll be fine for an underpainting, but not if I'm going to leave it. So let's wipe some of that back. Oh yeah, that's better, right? That's a lot better. Yeah, that just warms it up some. Yeah, that's better. What do you guys think? Yeah, right? Let's dry this really quickly. I'm going to go around the edges and darken them a little bit because I'm a sucker for a good halo. And whenever you're doing like your edges, you could use a glaze. You could use a dark wax. I still have not found my dark wax, by the way. You can also use, like if you have an antiquing wax or an antiquing paste or something that you may have on your craft table, you can use that as well. The reality is, once your decoupage is applied and sealed, you can use virtually anything over the top as long as it's not going to react with the chemicals, right, that you've used to decoupage. So say I'm having an art party and I wanted to use this to put some charcuterie on, I could use some resin, right, that's food safe, and this would be beautiful for that. The possibilities are really endless. So it's not completely dry, but it's dry enough, and we're running out of time. So I'm going to use some antiquing wax. Antiquing paste actually is what I'm using. And I'm going to right over the corner, right around the edges of this. I apologize if you guys are frustrated because I don't mention specific like brand of products that I'm using. But part of my reason for doing that is I want my Roycycled retailers to be able to use these videos um, to share with their customers, and I don't want to, and they all sell different brands, so I don't want to infringe upon um, like what they're trying to do. So this way they can use these videos to help promote the product that they sell, without having to worry about me mentioning like a competing product in my video. I know y'all don't care about that. I do. I'm lucky enough to have a little over 100 shops across the US, Canada, Australia. I don't have anybody in the UK right now who are willing to partner with me to carry my products, and I do not take that for granted. I'm so grateful for them. So I am just going around my edges, but it isn't, it's subtle, right? It just adds, and it really does add dimension to your work. Whenever we see something light, um, our brain interprets it as coming forward. And when we see something darker, our brains interpret it as receding or going back. So when you're adding like light and dark like this, the light is coming out and the dark is receding. And it literally, when your brain looks at it, it interprets that there's depth there. And it just adds something extra to your work. And I'm just going around like as I get closer to the inside, feathering it out a little bit. So I want it to be the darkest on the edge. And then as I move in, I'm kind of just feathering it out. So it's hard to tell like where it stops and starts. And that's it for today's project. What do you guys think? I think it came out so beautiful, and I didn't even paint flowers, but having the topography in the background and the flowers over the top, I think it's beautiful, and I'm just loving the way that halo looks. And I could um, you could put a little tab, like a sticky tab that has a hook on the back so that you can hang this on the wall as art. Or you could tie a really pretty ribbon and have that hanging down. That would be beautiful as well. Again, for today, we really focused on looking at the transparency of the Roycycled Decoupage paper. We use the music notes as our first layer. The second layer is Paintable Blooms Decoupage paper, both by Roycycled Treasures. And we went over with some yellow ochre paint to kind of stain it to give it some warmth, and then went around the edges with an antiquing paste to add some additional depth into our piece. Thank you guys so much for joining me this morning. I hope you guys enjoyed this quick project that we've done together here. Remember, I'll be here every day the next 30 days in January of 2026, by the way. And about noon, somewhere around noon, we'll do a quick project that won't last more than 30 minutes. So if you made a commitment to be more creative in 2026, come and join me. This can be a co-working space where I can be working on a craft while you're working on your own craft. Again, if you guys are looking for Roycycled Decoupage paper, you can find it at roycycled.com. And there's also a map of retailers, and you can find a retailer near you where you can find your decoupage papers as well. Thank you guys so much. And I say this all the time, and it is absolute truth. You guys, be curious. Where experimentation goes, creativity follows. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a blessed day.